Hello everyone, welcome to my live video for today. I'm going to be sharing with you my process of penciling a page for a children's book. This is Lori Holbrook's Stringbean. As you can see, I've already started to pencil some. These characters look a little rough and they're supposed to be. And the trick that I'm wanting to share, or kind of the tip I guess, of how I go about penciling a page is that this is actually paper that is on top of a light board. So if I can peel this off, I'll be able to show you the underdrawing. So the underdrawing has already been created. As you can see here, I penciled this in, and I do this on a separate piece of paper, and then I have to transfer this to watercolor. So I'll sketch out whatever it is that I'm wanting to transfer to watercolor, and then once I've sketched it out, I lay it on top of this light board, and I put the watercolor paper on top, which is a little thicker. Now the trick is you line it up, and then you tape it down so that it doesn't move on you. Now as you can see, you can't really tell what's going on underneath, but let me go ahead and turn some light down so you can see. Now you can start to see a little bit of the underdrawing starting to pop out more, and you should be able to see it a lot more here in a second. Now this helps me a lot because I sketch out different types of scenarios with the characters. So I may have a character sitting on the fence or one underneath it. I may add a couple squirrels here, the wolf, and so on and so forth. Now just matching this up though, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort because it should line up pretty good where I've been sketching already. There we go. Now you can really see the underdrawing. Now once I start penciling, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to transfer everything that I see underneath here. What I may do is actually change some things as I go along, so I don't include everything. The penciling is very rough. There's not a lot of detail, and you can see that I've actually went ahead and went outside the line here with the wolf a couple of times, but you don't necessarily have to follow every line, and that's the key. Now this page is huge. If I was to share all this with you, this is a massive page. I don't really want to share all the content of the book, but I can show you a little bit of the process here about penciling with the light box. So what the scenario you're looking at is a bunch of animals that are looking at our main character, Stringbean, who is on the opposite right hand side of the spread. Now a spread in a children's book is 2 pages put together to make one large drawing. So this is a spread. You notice that in some children's books the artwork will cover 2 pages, and it's a cool effect that some artists used, and especially when towards the end of a book, when the scenarios and characters all come together. Now what I'm going in here and adding now is some wheat. So I'm just making a few lines like this to show that there's wheat. This is a wheat field the animals are coming in through. This of course is part of the fence, and under here, this space that you see that's all left out clear, this is where I'm going to be adding a lot of these wheat type sketches, so that this will be colored in later. Now this process for me is something that I learned a while back, but I keep refining it, because sometimes I may go ahead and just do basic pencil sketches of like stick figures even. No detail at all hardly, just enough where I can tell where things are going to be on the page. Then I'll lay the paper over top of it and then trace. Watercolor paper obviously is much thicker than normal sketch pad paper or vellum surface. Strathmore is a good example of the vellum, around an 80-pound paper with a vellum surface. It's a lot thicker. So especially this brand of watercolor paper that I've chosen, this is actually one large sheet that you're supposed to cut. You can find that in a lot of hobby stores. They have that. I have one giant sheet of watercolor, and of course you have to go and trim it. But that's not a problem for me because I really enjoy the weight of the paper. You can see some of the characters sitting on the fence post here, so underneath there you should be able to see a little bit of the fence post. Apologize for the shaking of the camera right now. I'm still working on my setup. Hopefully you won't get motion sickness while watching it. Now tracing over these characters here, I may go ahead and add another baby possum on the back of the mother. The deer in the background, of course, you're going to have wheat that comes up and extends past this plane here. This is one plane in the drawing where the characters are all sitting on the fence post, and then underneath it, of course, you have another plane, which is the characters poking their heads through it. The moose in the background here, as you can see if I press down, you can see a lot of the details starting to pop out with that. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll just basically trace over my lines. I'm using a 6H pencil, so it's a little darker than, I'm sorry, this is an H pencil. So when I'm finished, what I have is still a sketch. It's not the final drawing. I'll go in and I'll take a kneaded eraser, which is an eraser that honestly looks like a thing of dough, a ball of dough, and I'll take that and then I'll go in and I'll take it and roll it over top of this entire surface so that all of the pencil line and graphite is pulled off of the page a little bit. Because what you don't want to happen is after you've penciled all this in and you actually go to watercolor the details, you don't want your watercolor picking up that graphite and then turning your color into some sort of a mucky gray. And that can happen. It's very easy for it to happen. Especially a drawing like this where there's tons and tons and tons of these little tiny peaks of wheat popping up. That can really pull up the watercolor and just turn it a different color than what you're expecting. There's a book called The Adventures of Frogbelly Ratbone, and I think the illustrator and author of that book is Timothy Aisling, E-L-S-I-N-G. I'm probably totally butchering that, but in that book though you can see one of his process has to be where he's drawn the characters out that he wants to color over top of. So he's put down his planes and he has all of his characters already established on the page, and then what he will do is he goes in with acrylic paint and some other forms of paint and he'll paint over top of that but not lift the graphite up, so it gives this really kind of a dark tone to the drawing. It's a neat effect that happens and you can use that if you want. But this process for me is really helpful. I've shared a couple times on my channel videos that talk about light boxes, and what I'll do now is try to get some more light over here and actually show you a little bit about the light box that I have. Now you can go online today and order a light box from online that is around 14 inches by 10 inches. It's an LED screen. You can get those for about $24–25. It's not too crazy, but I wanted something and needed something a little wider, so I actually ended up making this one myself. And I can't really show you the entire board, but what I can show you is a little bit about how I structured it. Now, what I have inside here are halogen lamps, bulbs. So if I pull this back, it's going to be a little bright, but you can see. So this is just plexiglass and some 20-watt feet electric bulbs. This is cool white, so it's not the real dull color. This is a cool white, or it's not too bright. This works for me. Some artists like to use it, this method too, of transferring the underdrawing to the paper. So I just wanted to share a little tip on how I'm working on a children's book and what I'm doing at the moment. I hope everybody's doing well, and please continue to keep drawing and check in with me. Let me know how things are. Share your work on my page if you want. I'd love to let everybody see what you're working on. Okay, thanks a lot for checking out my video. Until next time, I'm Chris Heffler.